All right, I'm live. My hair's everywhere. My dog is whining because he gets so excited before game time. And I'm excited for this one. I told you guys last week that the Ravens were probably going to put up 30 points on us. I have no score prediction for this game because honestly, I have no idea what to expect from Sam Howell and the Commanders other than kind of what I told you earlier in the week, which is that if I was Eric Bieniemy, I would attack us with a screen game because he's different than what the Ravens wanted to do. Remember, they wanted to keep us nice and tight. They wanted to hit us up in the middle and kind of spread our defense apart, right? So they could just keep punching us and jabbing. And then as we try to fix that problem, hit us out in the spread, try to get those clocks along the outside. Well, Eric Bieniemy works the opposite way. He wants to spread everything out, and then it gives him an opportunity to create explosives down the middle, draw plays and things like that, which creates havoc for the defense in the spread. It also creates quarterback lanes. So, Howell isn't a running quarterback, but it gives him an opportunity to scramble, so he might get like 66 yards or, like 50 yards rushing, which are just like these 10, 15-yard little bursts that are just like, we stopped him. Oh, no, we stopped him on 3rd and 8, and then they got a first down, or we might sack him. We'll probably sack Sam Howell like 5+ times today. Hell, we might sack him 10 times today, and it won't matter because they'll get like a screen on like 3rd or 2nd and 15, 2nd and 12, or like 2nd and 8 after we just made a great play after one of those draw plays puts them in an excellent position and we knock them back. But one of those screens is gonna give them like a great explosive play. So expect things like that today. And again, I'm just kind of reviewing kind of what I expect from the Commanders today. If I was Eric Bieniemy, how would I want to attack the defense? They got Terry McLaurin, so he's probably going to be trying to break our quarter, half coverage, right? And I doubt we're going to go full quarters coverage today. I don't see a reason because they don't have a threat opposite of McLaurin. They might try to go for the tight end, so expect like Jamal Adams to be covering the tight end or Brooks to be covering the tight end. But their real threat is McLaurin. So expect like him to be trying to attack Woolen, who specifically has been having problems because he'll probably go to the white outside. But he's known to move around like DK, right? So, but Woolen has been our problem child most recently when it comes to touchdowns because he gave up a touchdown to not just OBJ, but I think he gave up a touchdown a couple weeks ago as well. So expect that Bieniemy is probably going to try to put Woolen on Terry McLaurin, and we're going to try to beat your guy in the end zone because Woolen's been having problems. And so far, I don't think Brown, maybe they'll try to beat Brown off the top with McLaurin, but try to beat Brown and Love in that right corner. But I think as far as trying to beat Woolen and Diggs, they're not going to try to do that. They're going to try to beat Woolen one-on-one in that left corner. And good luck beating Witherspoon. I don't think that's on their plan. I think if they're going to try to beat Witherspoon, they're going to try to get blocks on him so that he doesn't have an opportunity to beat a screen. They don't want him on drag routes or anything like that. He's too quick. He's just, again, it's going to be like bunch coverage. Probably see what we did last week if we didn't fix it, where they're going to try to run pick plays on us. And I think it was Trey and Witherspoon collided with each other last week because it was just a really beautiful pick play. So that's the offense. On defense, what I would expect is for them not to do their Cinco package. they don't have enough defensive ends. Unless they want to move one of their defensive tackles inside. From the inside to the outside, they can't really run Cinco. I mean, they might have defensive tackle depth, but can their 5 technique run 7? I'm not sure. Do they want to move a linebacker out there? It's a weight problem. Do they have enough mass on the inside and enough speed on the outside to make the Cinco package work, which is the 5-1. Picture a dime package where you got 5 defensive backs, 1 linebacker, and 4 defensive linemen. A Cinco package is 5 defensive linemen, 1 linebacker, and then you got 4 defensive backs. So it's like reversed. And in the past, when they haven't had Sweat and they haven't had Young, the Commanders have abandoned their Cinco package. And they've just gone to a straight up nickel, which is 4 defensive linemen, 2 linebackers, and 5 defensive backs. Which would be useful against us because lately we've been using 3 wide receiver sets. So you would have somebody covering the slot, you'd have somebody covering the flanker, and you'd have somebody covering the wideout. And if I was Pete Carroll, and what Pete Carroll has been preaching all week, or at least he was earlier in the week, is why weren't we running the fucking ball against the Ravens? And why haven't we been doing it all year? We're not setting Geno up for success. He's not supposed to be a pass-first quarterback. This isn't supposed to be a pass-first offense. This is supposed to be balanced. And so far, we've just been throwing it around. And then a couple weeks ago, we ran it 24 times. I would expect us, because these ends are gone, regardless of if it's a Cinco package or a nickel package or like a 4-3 or a 3-4, whatever Jack Del Rio decides to throw at us, the wisest decision would be to run the ball. Sure, we don't have Abraham Lucas, and Bradford is out right now. We have Phil Haynes. We have Peters and Forsyth rotating on that right side. But they don't even have an end. And even if they do, they have to rotate a defensive tackle. And if they rotate a defensive tackle out there, he's not going to be able, like, even if he sets the edge, he's not going to beat Walker outside the edge. And, if he sets the edge, he's not going to beat our guy on the inside shoulder. So he could either line up at the 5, like the 5 tech would have to beat our guy on that gap. And then the defensive tackle lines up at the 7 instead of the end lining up at the 7. Or a linebacker would line up at the 7. And so it's just like a personnel thing. But when Sweat and Young there, it wasn't a personnel thing. It was a skill thing where they could do all of it. They could play the linebacker, they could play the defensive tackle, and they could play the end because they were so good at doing all of it. So now it's you can put one player that can do one of those things. So then when Geno and Walker and company line up to run the ball, they just need to identify what type of player it is, and then you can decide what type of ball you want to run. It's a personnel thing. Because, a 5-1, it depends. A 5-1 really is just a 3-3. It's also really just like a 3-4. It's also really just like a 4-3. It depends. It depends on the personnel that you have along the line. And it depends on how they're being used. Bill Belichick, famous for the 5-1 back in the day at his original Patriots team, they would line up as 5, and if the ends would watch the centers helmet. And if the helmet twitched this way, one end would drop into coverage, and then the other end would crash. And if the helmet went this way, they'd flip it, and then the other end would drop into coverage, and the other end would crash. So even though they lined up as 5, it was really a 4, because only 4 guys would go. So it's a Cinco package. But when you put a linebacker there, and it's, 5 guys on the line, and then you got, a linebacker in coverage. If you got that linebacker there, it's basically a 4-2. And what do we know about a 4-2 with the linebackers? It sounds awful familiar, doesn't it? It sounds a little bit like a nickel formation. We can beat nickel. We can beat the nickel formation. We just run like it's a nickel front. Nickel over, I think that's called, where they have somebody over the tackle or over the tight end. I don't remember exactly. If you want specific, sorry, my cough is still there. If you want specific formation titles and stuff, I have ADHD. I can't remember the titles of things, but if you want specific title formations, ask Maddie and Griff from Seattle Overload. They'll cover that for you. But yeah, for the Commanders game, as far as how we want to run the ball, it's just going to be a personnel problem when it comes to the defensive line. Jack Del Rio is going to be in for some shit. And that's if we run the ball. If we decide to pass the ball, then they're going to be able to dictate to our offensive line how they want to do it. But we have 4 out of all 5 of our starters ready to go, and they're all healthy, assuming Haynes is never healthy. He plays well, but he's never healthy. You can never assume that he's healthy. The 49ers, this is related. The 49ers played the Jaguars, and they're playing them right now. And I say playing. It's a get-right game for them. Every team gets a couple of them when you're really good or you're reasonably good. You get a get-right game if you're lucky. They're playing the Jaguars. And people are like, oh, the Jaguars are good. I mean, yes. They also suck so bad. They have so many holes on that team. They have a quarterback and their offense is functional. They're better than they were last year and the year before. Everything is relative. But, it'd be like me. I don't know if any of you have seen it, but I do a little singing, and I've been trying to repair my voice. And I dropped a cover of a song yesterday. It's not bad, but it's not good. If I try to, it was sung by Corey Taylor from Slipknot. And if me and Corey Taylor were both to get on stage and perform the same song, he'd whoop my ass. It wouldn't matter how much prep time. Let's say it's not Corey Taylor. Let's say it's just another vocalist who is a better vocalist than me. They'd whoop my ass. It doesn't matter how much experience I have right now. They're just better than me right now. And it wouldn't be a challenge for them. It would be practice. For me, it would be a challenge, and it would be like an experience for me. It'd be like, I talk about the flea jar where you take the lid off. I'd see what they're capable of, and then I'd realize, I can jump higher than this. For them, they're like, oh, that's cute. They're realizing that they can reach my level someday. They don't even realize that I'm still trying to reach this level up here, right? The 49ers, they're trying to reach another level, and the Jaguars are just barely hanging on for dear life. They're not even doing it. It's like 20-3. It should be 27-3. I still don't understand why that fumble return was taken from them. I don't even like the 49ers. That's highway robbery, NFL. Give that to the 49ers. Come on. But so they're playing the Jaguars, and it's a sparring match. right? And they're just clobbering this Jaguars team. We're going up a Commanders team that's better than the Jaguars. They're stout. And technically, our defense and our offense is younger than the 49ers and less experienced than the 49ers. And it's going to be a sparring match for us, but we got a better challenger. Sam Howell might not be as, highly regarded as Trevor Lawrence, but they got a better offensive coordinator. And that defense might not have Allen on it. But we're having philosophical problems, and they got some good defensive tackles, and we need to run the ball. So let's run the fucking ball, and let's get right. Let's get our philosophy going. Let's get in rhythm. Because if the Jaguars if the 49ers can go and beat up on the goddamn Jaguars, who are not a good team, and you're listening to these broadcasters and you're looking at these NFL pundits and they're like, holy shit, the 49ers are back. Brock Purdy looks amazing. He threw this pass to George Kittle. George Kittle's running a fucking post route, right? He's running on the flanker. He's lined up at flanker, far right, and he's running a post. So he's running along the sideline, and then you got to cut into the post. He's got this linebacker covering him. And I think he starts in slot, goes in, and then slides out to the sideline, and then starts to run his post. And it creates a little hip trickery for the linebacker, which is difficult because linebackers, they're just not as fluid. And what ends up happening is he gets like 2 steps ahead of the linebacker. He's already beaten him. And on top of that, the linebacker is tripping. He's going to fall. Brock Purdy has a wall in front of him. It's perfect. He goes 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Looks, sees, identifies, and throws the ball. Stands in place. Does not throw the ball or hitch back and throw the ball. He stands in place. And the offensive line is like holding, right? Because he's not supposed to be there. He decides instead of going 6, 7 and throwing on the 7th step, or literally just throwing on the 5th step, he stops, identifies, and throws. It's a footwork thing, right? The offensive line makes a perfect pocket, but one of the arms comes and kind of grazes like his chest after he throws the ball. And the announcers in the 49ers are like, oh, he threw that ball under pressure. He made an amazing pass. He throws like this 40-yard pass to Kittle, who's wide open. The guy who's covering him is literally falling down. And the offensive line has everything shored up. It's like the shield wall I always talk about, right? They have everything blocked. And there's like a limb, like the limb from the Lions in like 2015 that barely grazed his helmet. Or maybe it was 2014, just like a little fingertip just barely touched his mask. This Jaguar barely grazes his jersey like after he's thrown this ball. And these 49ers fans are like, man, he's such a great quarterback. He was getting pummeled, man. And I'm like, he didn't even get touched. And the fact that he was even getting grazed was because of his own footwork. He didn't throw on time. And he had 2 opportunities to throw on the right spot. And the only reason that spot was open was because George Kittle's amazing and the linebacker that was covering George Kittle fucking tripped. It goes down for like a 60-something yard touchdown. And I'm just like, why don't Seahawks get those types of experiences? And Seahawks fans would kind of be like that. But then we get like Geno Smith, I think it was last week, 2 weeks ago against the Browns. He breaks out into the flat and like the guy tries to tackle him, and he tiptoes out of the arms of the defender on the flat and throws a touchdown or something. It is like an amazing play, and people like Geno Smith is fucking decrepit and like for broke people, and I'm like, I can't stand punditry and just like these over the top statements. You got to get specific for me to take you seriously. I want to hear about the footwork. I want to hear about what happened on the play, not, oh my God, that is crazy. I can't stand it. This is one of the reasons why I got like really into football and why I don't just follow other fans. I tried doing it years ago where I would just follow fans, Seahawk fans, right? Like, yeah, I'm going to be one with the fan base. And then I would see like Jermaine Kearse would make a catch, or even a player I would really like Doug Baldwin would make a catch and he'd be wide open. And we'd be running 4 verts, and the guy that was covering him would be the cat, and the cat blitzes the quarterback, and we'd be running 4 verts, and it would be cover 0. I'm just throwing a scenario. It'd be like cover 0, which means that there's no safeties in the back. The cornerback that is over the top of Doug Baldwin would be blitzing Russell. And then we're running verts, which means that Doug Baldwin just needs to run straight. So he doesn't even need footwork or anything. He just needs to run forward. And then Russell Wilson needs to get rid of the ball before the defensive back hits him. And Doug would catch the ball and score a touchdown for like 20 yards in the end zone, like in 2015. Or like that 50-yard pass against the Vikings. We'll give it to Doug on that one. But it'd be like this amazing pass that like Russell would do. And people are like, oh my God, Doug Baldwin just blew this dude out. It was crazy, right? And I'm like, it was cover 0. Verts, and the guy that was covering him wasn't actually covering him. It was running after the quarterback. They're getting excited about the wrong things. It would drive me insane, right? So it would drive me insane. So that's kind of what's going on with these 49ers with Brock Purdy. I want to see them get excited about that offensive line that blocked for Brock Purdy so he could make that pass. I'm sitting here praising their offensive line, and they're like, no, Brock Purdy made an amazing pass. Like, are you guys just mad because you spent 3 first-round picks on Trey Lance, and then you let him go to the Dallas Cowboys without ever seeing what he was capable of? And then Brock Purdy lost 3 games in a row, and you're kind of like, he might suck. Are you guys like worried that Mr. Irrelevant might actually be the most irrelevant player on your team? The rest of the team is kind of making him look tolerable. I mean, earlier in this game, he tripped on nothing and threw the ball to nothing. He threw the ball to nothing. He tripped on nothing and threw the ball to nothing. It was a nothing play. And to make matters worse, they had to decide, did his knee hit the ground, or do we penalize him for throwing to nothing? It was so irrelevant. Either way, the ball was going behind the line of scrimmage. It was a negative play. It was going to be about 5 yards either way. It was a classic Brock Purdy play, just irrelevant. It's classic. Just classic. Okay, let's get back to this Commanders game. We have an injury update before this game. Did I close that panel? Yeah, Grits. My dog is whining. I had it open a minute ago. Let me find it. We got time before this game. It was about Mcintosh, who I know a lot of you are really excited about. I guess he has some kickoff potential, which you are excited about. He's our 4th string running back. A lot of you want him to be our 3rd string back because of his ability to catch the ball. And apparently he's pretty quick on the outside too, and you want him to do some outside handoffs. I like versatile players. But since we currently don't have the ability to run the ball regularly, I don't know if we have a spot for a 4th one on the active day roster. And here it is. And so I would like to see Kenny Mcintosh attempt kick returns or punt returns, but we do have Dallas doing really well on punt returns. I would like to have a backup punt returner. And if Kenny Mcintosh is that dude, it's a little worrisome that he's not there. Maybe they just couldn't fit him in this game, and maybe because he hasn't had enough reps in practice, they're just waiting. It was one of those things where he became active, and it's only been like a week, maybe less. Give him some time to get in the groove of being not a college player, but an NFL player in the middle of a season and being one with the team. And yeah, give him an opportunity. We don't want him going in there. And you know how you're all, when Charbonnet started, you're like, man, this guy looks like trash. He's got to hit the right gaps. He's got to get the timing right. There's a lot of little things that a running back needs to get just right. And we don't want to put Kenny in a bad position, especially if Kenny's your boy, right? We don't want him going on kick returns week 1 and he ends up fumbling because he's just not familiar with the turning of the ball, right? The ball has to flip a certain way, and he hasn't got that rhythm right in practice because he hasn't been catching these balls. And so he accidentally fumbles against like the 49ers in a couple weeks, right? We got to make sure that he has those reps ready to go in practice, and that he doesn't just start fumbling on the field ahead of time against the Commanders or the Rams, because we just throw him out there without any experience and get his emotions all out of whack, so that if he is our kick returner against the 49ers, he's not stressed out like, okay, make sure you catch this, make sure you catch this. Let's make sure that we treat our guys not as, oh yeah, he's a tool, he's fixed, let's go, but as people that need to go through patterns of behavior. And let's establish good patterns of behavior before we get our rookies in situations that they might not be able to come back from. Speaking of players that have been in situations that they haven't really been able to come back from, Eskridge is inactive today, for good or for ill. Wasn't he supposed to be our kick returner? Wasn't he supposed to be that dude coming back to be our kick returner? Who's on kick returns today? Is it going to be Dallas again? Because it hasn't been him. And it hasn't been Tyler Lockett. Tyler Lockett had 1 punt return earlier this year for 7 yards. And then he mostly doesn't do it. And my understanding is he says the company line of, I will do anything that is asked of me. But also he has this, I won't do anything that's actually asked of me because I don't want to get injured anymore. You know, he goes down regularly. And this isn't me criticizing him. This is me stating a fact. He goes down regularly. He doesn't let himself get hit. And it's because he's trying to increase his longevity. He's a businessman. He's a real estate agent. And he's making business decisions on the field. It is obviously he's making business decisions on the field. Especially this year, he's making business decisions on the field. He doesn't look like the same player. And so it's notable that he's just like not doing returns, and he hasn't for a few years now. And so to expect him to do kick returns, I would be really surprised if he did kick returns. I think Derek Young is active today. So is he going to get more wide receiver snaps? He must be taking Eskridge's place, right? He must be that fifth wide receiver because Bobo moved up that chart, so he's wide receiver 5. And therefore, is Young going to make some attempts at kick returns? Or do we have a defensive back that's going to do that? I know Kai Blue Kelly is gone. They let him go, our defensive back. I don't think there's any other notable guys who are returning the ball. I think Young did get some attempts in preseason. Unless it's just purely going to be Dallas. He's got that shoulder injury that he recovered from. Punt returns are iffy. Punt returns, my understanding, are much harder. And I've never really talked about my philosophy on returns. A lot of people say the goal of a kick return is to house it. You're asking for a Hail Mary? Think about it for a second. Let's say you get a kick return. They score 3 touchdowns, 21 points. You get 3 kick returns. Plus you get a halftime kick either at the start of the game, or start of halftime after the half. That's 4 kicks. You want one of those 4 to be a touchdown? You want a dude that can house it? Let's say a dude gets 40 opportunities in a season. You want one of those 40 to be housed. I don't think of any player that's so inconsistent. I can't think of any player where that's going to be enough opportunities. And here's why. If you hand Kenneth Walker a ball at your 25-yard line, which is about where a kick returner might catch the ball, is like the 25-yard line or the 10-yard line. If you hand Kenneth Walker the ball, how many yards is he probably going to get? If it's like a really good run, like 10 yards, if it's a really good run. And if it's an explosive, like 15 yards, he's not going to house it. And if he runs it 40 times, he might house one. If it's all blocked up, right? It's perfectly schemed. And in kick returns, it's even harder because there's so few schemes you can actually run, and everyone knows exactly what you're going to do. And you get like so much room to run until it's all shored up. It's almost impossible to return the ball on a kick return. This is why you got to, like, guys like Cordell Patterson. It's not just Cordell Patterson. He's insane. But you also got to have, like, a good team around you. But, yeah, like, there are freaks of nature that are able to just return the ball. But you're not going to find them. And so the philosophy of returning a kick isn't, I'm going to house this bitch, because it's not going to happen. Even with a Cordell Patterson, he's returned it, like 6 or 7 times? And he's been in the league for years. Do not bet on it. Do not expect it. The goal is field positioning, because that's what special teams is. It's about flipping the field and putting your offense or defense in, hold on, my laptop wants to die, in a position that is advantageous. And so when an opposing team punts, if you end up at your own 25, you have to go along the whole field. And typically, a good defense will hold you to what, like a 3 and out, maybe a first down and then a 3 and out. So let's say you get 19 yards and then you have to punt. Fucking sucks, right? Didn't get any points. Well, how on special teams can you put yourself in a situation where if your offense can guarantee a first down and then get close to that other first down marker, you can put your kicker in a situation to put up 3 every drive, so that you never need to punt, because punting is a turnover. You don't want to turn the ball over, right? At least 3 every drive. Well, the goal of a kick return is to get to the 40-yard mark. This is philosophy of how I think a kick return should work. If your kick return unit can get your offense to the 40 on your own side, and your offense can get to the opposing team's 40, you're basically already in field goal position with the way that kickers today are built. You're doing half of the job for the offense. So, yeah, you might not be able to get a kickoff return. You might not be able to house it. But if you can set up the offense to, if you have an offense like Trevor Lawrence against the 49ers, where he's getting a first down and then getting stuffed. If you can get him to the 40 and then he gets to the 50 and then to their 40-ish, and let that kicker have an opportunity to take a shot, hell, he might even pass that second. He might get 2 first downs and then stopped. You're in field goal position. That's 3. Next drive, 3. Next drive, 3. And if you get like 10 drives in a game, I'm rounding up. If you get 10 drives in a game and your kick return or your punt returner can always get you to the 40, and then your offense can guarantee you 1 to 2 first downs a drive. Well, what's 10 times 3? That's 30 points. This is before your offense is even able to score touchdowns. So the philosophy of special teams is not, we need to house this bitch. It's, we need to get to an advantageous point on the field, because it's too much to expect our offense to score like Patty Mahomes and the Chiefs every single drive. We need to put our offense in a position where when they fail, because inevitably the other team needs to play defense too, they play football too, it sucks for them because they stopped us, but we're putting up 3 points anyways, because our special teams keeps putting us in a situation where we're going to put up points every time anyways, because we're not turning over the ball and because we're moving the chains at least twice, at least once, and then getting close to the second chain. We're putting our kicker in a position to move up 3. And yeah, you're putting up a touchdown, but you're also punting the ball, which is turning over the ball, which means that you're losing the turnover ratio, because every time you turn over the ball, we then get the ball, move to the 40, kick another 3. So we're catching up to you and gradually just beating you through attrition. And hey, we scored a touchdown, which makes it even harder on you, right? And so when you say that never kick philosophy, you're missing the big picture, which is that field position needs to be won in the return game as well. And obviously, you do see some teams that are unable to do it. But many times it's because, the Ravens, they have a great kick return game. They don't house it, right? They haven't really been housing it since Jacoby Jones. Was that his name on that 2012 team? It's all field position. And then you see Tucker, and he's constantly just bump, blump, blump, lock him in, and it keeps him in games. And it's all about field position. And we talked about Michael Dixon being such an amazing punter because he's pinpointing them down near the 10 and closer line. And that's what we need. And that's what makes Dallas so good, is that he rumbles. People say, well, Dallas he's not going to house any balls. He might get the ball up to like the 30-yard line or the 40-yard line. If he's catching the ball at the 25 and actually going for it, he might go to the 40. And so a lot of people are like, why don't you just catch the ball and not run? A lot of teams are doing this year where they're catching the ball at like the 10, and then they're not even attempting the run even when they have all this space. And the argument is, well, they could fumble or that could be a flag and it'll put them in worse situation. Well, you're already in a terrible situation. You're asking your offense to drive down the field 90 yards. What's another 5 yards, to be fucking honest, right? Try to rumble and get down to the 30 or the 40. You want to put your offense in as advantageous a position as possible. You're already in a virulent spot. Let's see. The game's going to start really soon. Anthony Bradford is out today. He is our right guard. So expect Phil Haynes to be in today. He often gets hurt. And if he plays a full game today, I'd be concerned. Not because I don't believe in him, but because as somebody who believes in having 8 starters, and Anthony Bradford would be one of those starters, the understudy, right? He's out. And so since the guy that he is under has a habit of getting things tweaked, we might see Brown rotate over there and Olu start at center if something happens to Haynes. And I think we did see what was his name? Why is his name eluding me? Jason Peters. I keep thinking it's Jones. It's Jason Peters. Jason Peters has been doing some work at guard. So if something happens to Phil Haynes, we might see him at guard. Let's see. Miles Adams, our defensive end, the 5-tech. He is also unlisted, which makes sense because we got Leonard Williams now, so we don't need Miles Adams. I am sorry to their name is also eluding me. There's so many Seahawk bloggers that they just have Hawk included in it, and then they start to get all mixed together. The ones involved with the Hawkra, I am sorry, Miles Adams is not in today. Son of a bitch. Let's see. For the Commanders, they only have one player that's not active today, and it's their wide receiver Curtis Samuel, who has a toe injury. So we might shut down a lot of their passing game today, again, except for screens. And Terry McLaurin, who I would expect some red zone targets against Woolen. Does the game start at 1:25 or 1:05? Kickoff time, 1:25. let's see. Do I have any notes left before the start of this game? I wanted to get through it quickly. Oh. Will Dissly. Where's Will Dissly been this year, you ask? Well, he's been blocking. We've played a lot of really good defensive ends this year. A lot of good units. And specifically, all year long, our tackles have been rotating because of injuries, and our whole offensive line has been all over. And since he is basically a tackle that plays receiver sometimes, because tight ends have to play both. They're the most underrated position on the offensive side of the ball. He hasn't been getting targets, and Fant's been getting those targets. I'm wondering if, since we got 4 starters back on the line, Forsyth and Peters are on the right side, and they don't have their defensive ends, if this is an opportunity for Dissly to have a good day today as a receiver, since Pete Carroll and company, we just the Ravens are purple and black. They beat us purple and black, right? They beat us good. And if Pete Carroll wants to go back to like what makes us good, well, what makes us good is running the ball, utilizing the tight ends and play action, which sets up our wide receivers. And so I want to see Dissly doing some checks and then going out or laying out some nice corner routes or some dig routes, because we saw that apparently Geno has some effect at dig routes. He just needs to make sure that he hits the timing of those routes appropriately. And then I want to see DK Metcalf on the slants actually catching the ball. And if you recall what I said on Friday, I don't want to see Geno hit the slant on step 3. A lot of people think that the slant is 1, 2, 3, get rid of the ball. And oftentimes when you do that, and it's projected, your defensive backs with that safety over the top, they just come down and then they hit your dude. And I'm pretty sure that's how DK's ribs got popped earlier this year. And it's going to happen, right? Sometimes you need to make that play. Oh, shit. It's like 3rd and 2, 1, 2, 3, hit the screen, right? They're blitzing me like crazy. You need to make that play. But it's also effective if on the right side, for instance, DK's on the wide outside. If you run a slant across the field and it's just dragging, you're using his speed against the DB and you're letting that DB drag. If Geno can't run outs, and we've seen evidence this year that he's having trouble with outs, and we're getting those near pick sixes, making him look like Matt Schaub versus Richard Sherman. And we've already seen it in his chart, where those comeback routes on the left side, they're not throwing those comeback routes anymore because those were leading to picks. If they take out those out routes, what you can replace the out route with is the 7th step slant route, where you run the slant, the DB, the safety has to respect step 3. When you don't hit step 3, the DB moves. But that slant is still running. So as DK comes across the field and he's stretching the field, Geno's reading the other things, and then he's in that spot where the out is. So as the out runs, you go up and then over. It's the same effect except you're not having the DB backpedal and continue backpedaling, then, shit, I missed. But the difference is what was beating Geno is that backpedal was tricking him, where the DB is pretending to continue backpedaling and then breaking in on the ball. So if you run the 7th step, it's allowing DK to continue, and then the DB doesn't have the acceleration to break on the ball because DK has already beaten the steps across. Theoretically, right? Geno should have the smarts because the backpedaler doesn't have, there's no backpedaling, there's no kick for the DB in a stretch play. So I would like to see that out get removed and replaced with the 7th step of a slant. And of course it opens the 5th step right in the middle, which that can replace like a curl. There's things you can do with the timing of a slant. It's a bread and butter play. It's a shit, our starting quarterback just got hurt. Let's run a goddamn slant to get things going. It is the bread and butter play. Lockett can do it. Fucking JSN can do it. DK can do it when he catches. Anybody can run a slant. Parkinson can run a slant. Disley can run a slant. Anybody can run a slant. And any quarterback should be able to run a slant. If you can't throw a slant, you don't get drafted into the NFL. I want to see some slants against the Commanders. Por favor. Come on, please. Run a goddamn slant. And run them, and don't just desperation chuck it at the 3 step. There's so many creative ways to use the most bread and butter play. Have you seen what white people do with butter? Waldron is white as fuck. He could do so many things with butter. We deep fry butter and just cover it in sugar and call it a meal. Deep fry that shit. Yeah, that's what I said. We don't need to season it. We just need to cover it in sugar and deep fry it. Take that slant, make it delicious. Make it fucking delicious like the Puyallup Fair. I want it. I want it so bad. It's so easy. And it sets up play action. It sets up everything. When you see cover 2, and you see cloud coverage, you call a slant. You audible to a slant, Geno. When you see that they are not in press, you audible to a slant, Geno. Just give me a little something. When you see that they're in nickel, and it's not the nickel side, you audible to a slant, Geno. If they are in a 4-3 stack, and you see that one of those linebackers is getting a little jumpy, you audible to a slant, Geno. Come on, man. It's so easy. They're giving you free yards. And then the best part about a slant is that when you catch the ball, you just need to go up the field and you get like another 3 or 4 yards. And oftentimes, if you do that, you could just keep fucking going. You could just get to the next hash. If you got guys running a slant, if you got guys running a dig like Disley, he's like, oh, you're like 5 yards within me. I'm just going to pop this DB or this linebacker that's trying to tackle you. And we've seen it with DK in his like year 2, where Russell just threw him a goddamn slant against the 49ers, and he takes it all the way around the field for a touchdown. It's just such an easy play. And then they try to throw these hard fucking corner shots into double coverage. I'm like, what are you doing? What are you doing? The game's about to start in like 10 minutes, and I'm getting upset already. If they don't throw a slant, if they don't run the ball, if it's just more of what we've had all year, where it's obvious that they're like, well, we got to make sure to get the ball to JSN. Well, we got to make sure to throw the ball to DK a whole bunch. We just paid him a big contract. Well, he likes explosives, so make sure explosives will come when you get the ball to the spot on the field in time, which will enable your skill players to make explosives. It's like turnovers. They come in bunches. Enable your skill players to do it by putting them in the spot by throwing on time. And it hasn't happened all year because they're trying too hard. Follow a pattern of play. Oh my God. It's been painful all year. The game hasn't even started. If we go against these Commanders and we're fucking around playing down to our opponent, I'm going to have some words at halftime. I'm going to have some words after the game. I'm going to let you guys go. Going to let you muse on this. Like and subscribe. I appreciate it. And go Seahawks. Fuck the 49ers.